Hi guys, it's Sandy with Sandy Cogdill Designs, and I am so excited to share this card with you today. I created this card for a card swap for Paperganza, so I actually made 10 of them. But this card is just absolutely everything I love. I love interactive cards, I love gnomes, and I love, love, love Halloween. Go ahead and hit subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos. You can follow me on Instagram at Sandy Cogdill or on my blog, www.sandycogdilldesigns.com. Let's jump into it. The stamp sets I am using for this card are from TRINITY Stamps. They do my favorite gnomes. I just love all of their gnomes, and I can't tell you how many times I have colored these little guys. So the stamp sets I'm using are Hocus Pocus Gnomes and Fabulous Gnomes, and I'm also using the coordinating dies. I do all of my coloring with Copic markers, so I'm going to start first with my little witch's hat, and we are using T5, T2, and T7. Purple is one of my favorite colors for Halloween coloring, so I'm going to give her purple hair. The colors I am using are V12 and V15. For her blue dress and her hat band, I am using B01, B04, and B05. The bristles on her broom are Y21, Y23, and Y26, and then the handle, as small as it is E53, E55, and E57. The color on her cuffs are Y11, Y13, and Y15. And I also used a little bit of that Y15, I believe, for the buckle on the top of her hat band. And her beautiful green face is YG00, YG01, and YG03. And I think she is just perfect with that green toned skin. Love her. Moving on to my little ghost. I love this little set because the die actually comes with the set. So we're going to start with his feet, and I'm using the same colors that I used for the broomstick, and they are E53, E55, and E57. His little pumpkin candy pail is Y38, YR04, and YR07. His little outfit, which you can barely see behind his beard and his little ghost costume, are the same colors that I used for my witch. So they are V12, V15, YG13, and Y15. For his little nose and hand, I used E000 and E01, and I might have added just a little bit of R20 for a little bit of rosiness. His little beard is shaded with actually just T2, it looks like. I might have added in a little bit of T1. And the shading on his little ghost outfit is B00. That pretty much does it for all of the Copic coloring for this project. As I said in the beginning of the video, I was making 10 of these cards. Actually, I think I wound up with 11 with my little prototype. Off camera, I had inked up a lot of white cardstock using Blueprint Sketch and Salty Ocean Distress Oxide inks. Once those were dry, I used the Starfield Letterpress with some silver foil, and I foiled all of those pieces with the stars. I just thought that was the absolute perfect background for my card. I'm going to start with the interactive part of my card. I am using the Emergency Essentials card number 3 double slider. I've cut my little, what I call my H piece, out of black cardstock. And then I'm using a little bit of acetate, and this is just plastic or acetate that I've scrapped off of the card packages, or not the card packages, but the stamp packages. I've turned into quite a little bit of hoarder, a hoarder on that plastic now. Anyway, I'm going to cut those just a little teeny bit less than 2 1/4 inches. I don't want it so wide that my plastic isn't going to slide easily on that H piece. So I'm going to cut that. I'm going to put some double-sided adhesive tape at the top of my plastic piece, wrap it around my H, and then secure it with another piece of double-sided adhesive. Then I'm going to put another strip of double-sided adhesive on the bottom side of that H, on the front piece, and then on the back side, I'm going to put another piece of double-sided adhesive tape. I want to make sure when I'm applying that my tape is not extending past my plastic, or it's going to get caught up on the cardstock and your interactive piece isn't going to move very freely. It's going to give you some trouble. Now I'm going to apply the 2 pieces that I have cut out that are the actual pieces that pop out from the card. So I have backed both of those pieces with black cardstock. As you can see, I've got the foiled piece on top, and then I have that backed with a piece of black cardstock just to give it a little bit of extra strength. I also have used the notch die that comes with the set to cut out a notch on the one side that gives the card recipient the instructions on what to do to make this card work. As you can see, I'm kind of lining this up on my card to make sure that that notch piece is lined up with the notch piece that I've cut out of my card front to get that applied in the right spot. I'm not necessarily worried about how far it's going to extend past that because I'll trim it off, but I definitely want that little notch piece, both of those notch pieces actually, to line up on my card. I will peel off the protective piece on my double-sided tape and put my second little sliding mechanism on that H piece, and that is ready to go. Now I'm going to put some foam tape on both sides of those little arms on the H piece. The foam tape I'm using is a kind of like 2 millimeter, but you could definitely, and I have gotten by with a 1 millimeter depth foam tape, and I actually like that better, but I didn't have any for these cards. Just make sure that when you're putting that foam tape on those little arm pieces that you're not catching any of that plastic or any part of the little tab pieces that pull out, or your card's not going to work. And I have I have done that before, so just be careful. Now we're going to start putting things together. So in the die set, there is a rectangular piece. And you're going to, it's got embossed lines on it. You're going to fold that in on the inside embossed lines and then fold the cardstock out on the outside embossed lines. And then you're going to try to, I curl those two edges with a pair of long tweezers that I have. You definitely want to kind of break down that fiber in the cardstock, or that piece isn't going to slide very well through the little slit on your card. I've got that glued, and I used liquid glue for that. And then I put a layer of double-sided adhesive on the back of that. I'm going to insert it into the slit on the front of my card, and then I'm going to work on getting that mechanism that I built with the little H piece and the pull tabs lined up on the front of that card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the tab, or the little notch that's cut out, is lined up on that right side of the card. And once I get that lined up and nice and straight, I'll go ahead and push it down on that little sliding mechanism. I'm not too worried about the cardstock that's extending out past the card front on the left side, just because I will trim that off once I get my piece placed. So I'll get that stuck on the little slide mechanism, and then I'm going to peel off my protective tape pieces on my foam tape and get that adhered down. It takes a little bit of finagling and a little bit of work, but it's easy enough to do. Just take your time and have a little bit of patience. Now that I've got my mechanism exactly where it needs to be, I need to fill in all those blank spaces on the back of my card. So I'm going to use various widths and depths of foam tape to fill in those pieces. So keeping in mind that the H piece had a layer of 2mm on the front of those arms and another 2mm on the back of the arms, I need to build up the back of my card so that it's got 4mm on all the other pieces to make sure that everything is level and there aren't any huge valleys or blank spots. Like I said, I have used 1mm on those arm pieces before and then filled in with the 2mm, and I actually like the depth of that for my cards. That way it does give me, if I want to, a little bit of wiggle room where I could pop up some of the elements on the front of my card if I wanted to, without making it too thick. Now I need to seal up that mechanism so that I can apply it to a card base. So I've got another piece of cardstock cut at 5.5 by 4.25, and I have cut out another notch piece. That way the recipient can get their fingers in there and actually have an easier time pulling out that tab. I'm going to use my MISTI to get that lined up. Once I have that adhered, I do want to make sure that everything is moving smoothly. Now I get to start building my scene. So on the outside of my card, I have used the A2 tree frame die to kind of just border the whole thing and give it that spooky, eerie glow. And then I'm using pieces from the Spooky Scene Builder Slimline die set. And I'm just going to cut out the ground with some kind of a medium brown cardstock. I'll go in with some Distress Oxide ink and just kind of ink those edges to give it a little bit of dimension. I also have the owl cut out from that set. And I've done some little gravestones or tombstones cut out of the gray cardstock. And I will ink those with a little bit of black soot on those edges also. I have used, I can't remember, I think it came with the Fabulous die set, the little bat die to add some bats to a couple of those gravestones. I also have some green cardstock cut out for little tufts of grass to kind of help build in that scene. I found it really helpful to get my little witch placed on that sliding mechanism so I knew exactly where I needed to put my little owl. I'm going to use liquid glue to adhere her to that tab piece that slides back and forth. You could use the double-sided adhesive. I just prefer liquid glue. It gives me a little bit of time, a little bit of wiggle room to get things exactly where I want them. You just need to be very careful not to let any of that glue gush out from the sides so that you glue your whole mechanism together. That would be just absolutely tragic at this point of the card building. Now that I have everything cut and stamped and shaded, I can start finally building my final scene for this card. After I got everything put together, I decided that the sky needed just a little bit more. It seemed a little bit flat. So I used some grayish black glitter cardstock and I cut out some little bats and I applied them up in the sky, above the witch, and a couple down below, maybe one over by the owl. I just kind of filled in some of that space just to give it a little bit more interest, I guess. For the sentiment, I use the sentiment that comes with the Hocus Pocus Gnome stamp set. I heat embossed it on yellow cardstock with black embossing powder. And then I'm just going to apply it to those, the two tabs. You can see that yellow cardstock a little bit in the slit on that card where the little witch moves back and forth. But it wasn't that much that it bothered me. If you find that's going to be a problem or it bothers you, you could always just put those sentiment pieces on a piece that blends in with your tab pieces, and that would be fine also. To finish up the card, I have a piece of cardstock that I have stamped with more of the sentiment pieces from the two stamp sets. I'll go ahead and adhere that into a card base, and then I will glue the front of my card onto my card base. I personally prefer to use liquid glue as opposed to double-sided adhesive. I have had problems with that sticking over the long haul. So the other good part about a liquid glue is it does give you a little bit of time and a little bit of wiggle room to get things lined up just right. Oh my goodness, do you not just love this card? I know I do. That pretty much does it for this card. Thank you so much for stopping by today and following along in the process. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. You can also subscribe to my channel by hitting the subscribe button. You can also follow me on Instagram at Sandy Cogdell or on my blog, www.sandycogdelldesigns.com. Thanks again, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye now.